Meantime, the U.S. consumer holding up reasonably well in January. While income was flattish in the wake of the child tax credit, real personal spending came in stronger than expected, meaning it beat inflation by 1.5%. Separately, durable goods orders nearly doubled estimates, another sign of strength. So how well is the U.S. economy doing right now, and how quickly does the Fed need to tighten? Joining me now is John Taylor, professor of economics at Stanford and senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. He's best known for the Taylor Rule, a mathematical formula for setting interest rates. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you, Kelly.
And I wanted to start by asking about the strength of the economy, because normally we get strong, durable goods, all the rest of it, we go great, off to the races, but inflation makes that picture a little more murky this time.
It does. The economy is recovering. That's good. But inflation is quite high, especially where the Fed is. And so I think there needs to be some adjustments. We can't have a roaring inflation again.
We in some ways have the roaring 20s that people hoped for a year or two ago. The problem is we just have roaring inflation with it. How roaring would you describe it? I mean, is it the end of the world if inflation's still 3% next year? How aggressive does the Fed need to be here?
It's not the end of the world, but I think the Fed needs to begin to make the adjustments. They've begun to talk about it in the last few months. People are guessing how many rate moves they'll move this year, but they should move. You mentioned the Taylor Rule. Taylor Rule is indicating they should make adjustments, and a lot of people are looking at that and making guesses about how much the Fed will move. I think the concerns that the Fed has had that the economy will slow, but I think at this point the economy will do better with a more reasonable interest rate.
More reasonable meaning higher. You think, if I'm correct, that they should do 0.5 point next month? Is that right? No matter what's going on with Russia and Ukraine?
I think that would be the best at this point, because they are behind even with what's happening in Ukraine. I think the Ukraine issues are obviously need to be watched carefully, but in the meantime, they are behind by almost any calculation. And so adjustments continuing throughout this year, starting perhaps with 50 basis points, the next move. But I think the main thing is a gradual announced plan as much as possible, and that will make the economy adjust better, actually. It'd be better to have a more reasonable, I'd say, interest rate, not nearly zero, but eventually 2 or 3%.
How far behind are they?
Well, I think they're quite behind. I mean, I think by the end of this year, 3% would be a reasonable thing. And, you know, the normal rate is about 4%. So I don't know if they're going to get to that rate. They have to have inflation to come down. I think you can point to the rise of inflation due to the policy. You know, people are saying other things, but policy has been very easy, if you like. And I think that's the reason inflation has picked up. So a gradual return to normal will reduce inflation, hopefully without any cost to the economy, be a benefit to the economy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what the driver here is. Is it $5 trillion on the Fed balance sheet expansion? Would you throw in the $5 trillion on the fiscal side we spent to fight the pandemic? And do you think that they need to shrink the balance sheet as quickly as they raise rates?
Well, they're stopping the increase in the balance sheet, but I think eventually they'll need to raise the limit, reduce the balance sheet as they increase the interest rate. But I think at this point, the most important thing is to get on with the interest rate rise. I think the markets are beginning to expect that more and more. The balance sheet should be part of that because it's basically been part of the expansion. But I think the main thing is the interest rate.
And again, just to kind of explain why you think that when we talk about this issue, there are many who say, well, wait a minute, we already are dealing with high prices and low consumer sentiment. And wouldn't the Fed aggressively raising interest rates just make the U.S. consumer feel a lot worse? What would your response to that be?
No, I think it would make it feel better. It's what's unusual now is, given the inflation rate, given the state of the economy, the interest rate is near zero. So it's a very unusual time. We haven't had this situation before. So that's what's unusual. A more normal situation is where the rate would be higher. And I think moving in that direction is very important for continuing this strong economy. We want the economy to get stronger, not weaker. And this will be the way to do it.
Well said. John Taylor, thanks for your time today. It's good to see you.